We've got Friday Night Lights, union fights, and playoff details on the horizon. This is episode 86 of the UFL Podcast, and it starts right now.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome back, everybody, to the UFL Podcast. I am Zach Kyleman hosting this week, and man, we have a loaded show to talk about. A lot of stuff going into Week 8 of the UFL. The back half, we are well into the back half of the season. Already got one matchup for the UFL Championship series of games already locked up, and possibly the second one will be locked up by the end of the week. We'll talk more about that as the show goes on. Got plenty of other stuff to discuss, too, that's come over the news wire this week that we have to definitely touch on. But before we get into any of this, got to bring in my guy here, the man who I am now starting to believe the ref's law a little more with. It is the ref himself, as you can see. I'm enjoying the fruits of this law's labor this year, and thank you. I'm thanking you for that. I'm starting the show with a thank you. I get to know the Panthers are a better squad because of ref's law. I owe a lot to you, sir.
87.1% accurate on the season, might I add. We have a game this week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Next week's guaranteed ref's law, in which I'll be at that game. It's the last home game for the Roughnecks.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that in a few different ways. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. We're deep into this season. We're heading to the playoffs. We already know what one half of it's going to look like. And like you said, Zach, we're so close to knowing what the other side's going to look like. And we were just talking about this before we got on. I got my plane booked. You got your plane booked. I'm looking forward to heading to St. Louis, going to the Dome. Maybe I'll see the Arch, and we're going to see one hell of a UFL championship game. And then, I'm also going to be spending – it's funny. We're both spending time with our families while I'm out there.
Right.
I'm going out to Northern Illinois to spend time with my family, and you're going to be out in Indianapolis spending time with yours.
Mm-hmm. Yep, set back to Central Indiana. Going to be a good time. Good times. Both of us heading back to the Midwest for sure. Both of us, again, hitting up family time, as you will. And good to have that once in a while. Both of us a little bit a distance away nowadays from the folks back home. But yeah, both of us will now flights are booked there and back. We're ready and all set. Tailgating and fun galore we're going to have on the 16th. And the UFL did release a few details on the said championship game on the 16th. We'll touch on later on in the show. But yeah, we will be there. You'll see us there. Might not be a summer stock as we've had in the past. Just going to put it out there right now. But we will be enjoying the game, and you can come visit us wherever the hell we land before the game and so on and so forth.
Well, I'll just say this, wherever I'm at, a party is at, because Zach and I, we are going to be tailgating. So I think the real thing is every year we go and we do a show and we have to rent speakers and we have to haul these things across the whole country. And the one thing that Zach and I never get to do is, one, hang out with each other, but hang out with the fans.
Yeah.
Right. And so with spring stock and summer stock, anytime before the show we're setting up, anytime after the show we're breaking it down and getting right in the venue. We never actually have a chance to hang out with anybody, right. Which is like the whole point of doing this, is getting close to the community. And so to me, there is a summer stock. It's just not a show. Will we probably record a clip while we're there and throw it online with our predictions? Probably.
Oh, of course.
Will we maybe go live on with our phone? Yeah, 100%. But we're not going to do the big show this year. We want to go have fun. We want to party at the UFL Championship with you. So come and join us. We will be doing some type of tailgating. I need to coordinate with a few folks out there to see where the tailgating lot is. But once we know, we'll let you know. But it is going to be a little bit different this year. But I'm looking forward to enjoying the game. I'm looking forward to enjoying the tailgate. And as I said before we started recording, I'm looking forward to seeing a game at the Dome.
Yes, and if you haven't been before, I'm so glad I went to the home opener in 2020. My dad to this day still holds that as his favorite football experience is that home opener. the universal Battlehawks crowd. Now, granted, it might be different. Right now St. Louis is the favorite in the XFL conference. So I will say if they land in the championship, people will lose their minds, and it will feel like that atmosphere times probably 2 or more, given that at that time, keep in mind 2020, they didn't open the second deck. That was 20,000 people in the lower bowl. And now ever since then, the second deck and even the third deck have been regular places for fans. So you're going to enjoy it. You will have a great time. Even if even the Battlehawks don't make it, I guarantee you they'll get a pretty good crowd because of the fact that city does love that game. So can't wait. A few more details we'll talk about momentarily on the back end of the schedule with that as well. But before we get into anything else, and again, crazy week of general UFL news. So we'll have lots to talk about. But before we get into that, got to get through our usual plugs. Social media. Hey, you following us lately? Follow us along at UFL Podcast on your favorite platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok if you want, though it's been back and forth. We've been kind of busy. Things have hit the fan for us lately, but in a good life way, I would say. Around the UFL, by the way, if you're following along with us at Around the UFL, favorite social platforms as well, Facebook, Instagram, and then UFL Podcast for TikTok as well, and our Twitter as well, Around the UFL. Some great stuff to help us support the show. Breaking Tea, 10% off coupon code USFL Newsroom. Yes, it's the old code. We don't care. It still is great. But again, USFL Newsroom, 10% off your order at breakingtea.com for all your favorite UFL gear and other great gear that they sell, by the way, too. Help support the show or shows, and also you get some pretty sweet swag at a discounted price when you do that as well. And finally, even though summer stock will not look the same this year, we are still pushing for our usual Ducky collection that we did. It's the second year we're doing this. Brand new gears we've talked about. And again, helps Feeding America. Every purchase you donate directly to Feeding America when you buy swag. I'm picking my stuff up, actually ordering it here today after we get done with the show. I said last week I would get it, and it's been a crazy week, and I'm getting it today just to reiterate that I am picking my stuff up. But yeah, sweet sweatshirts and swag, t-shirts on there. Be a ducking legend and help support Feeding America and our causes. Hopefully we can sell it. We can get even more meals than last year. Last year we donated 1,000 meals. Let's get beyond that. Let's see if we can push beyond that. Again, Ducky Collection, you can find that at the Pro Football Newsroom store, pfnewsroom.com. Click shop, and you should be able to find that collection on there, or link in this description below if you want to go directly to the shop link. I think that covers it.
I think so.
Looking good.
So.
Looking great. Let's hit some league items. Let's hit a massive league item, something that, honestly, we had to verify this a little bit. And, Deadline, if you've ever followed the TV industry, again, you know this show. I and Stefan, we love talking the TV industry, especially when it is a TV-driven football league, and Fox owns 50-ish%, a little over, debating on how you look at it. They own a big chunk of this sport. So, Deadline, who is one of the top sites to talk about the latest and greatest in the television and movie industry, they brought up the fact that Fox is doing their upfronts this past week. What are upfronts? Basically, think of it as like big investor celebrations where they're showing you the latest and greatest of what the television and items that Fox is bringing up with their platform. So think like Tubi, Fox News, kind of hype, Fox Sports hype, and the whatnot of anything new and new shows that they might want to show off that they just finished development with. Well, during these upfronts, and while Deadline was looking into the said schedules of Fox's lineup from said upfronts, one of the big questions was, what's going to happen with SmackDown? And bear with me, I'm getting there. What's going to happen with SmackDown on Friday nights? So Fox has had SmackDown from WWE for 5 years now. Their contract ends, I believe it's this August, September. It's fall. Their contract ends. SmackDown's going to head to USA, and WWE is not going to be on any over-the-air networks again. Most likely ever again, given some of the reactions I've talked with. But it leaves a huge gap. The rumors were they were going to do sports with that Friday night. Well, sure enough, they confirmed sports are coming to Fox on Friday nights during the primetime slot. And they said 3 of them, and I'll list them off in their order. Fox College Football, Fox College Basketball, and Fox UFL. And people stopped for a second. A few people on Twitter saw this. shared it a little bit around. We dug a little bit. And, it's looking pretty much likely. I mean, Fox hasn't said anything elsewhere otherwise, but Stefan, you made the piece on this. It's looking near guaranteed that Friday nights next year are going to be a primetime UFL slot in the spring.
Yeah, and I mean, the big comment to come out of this is, well, the UFL doesn't play in the fall, and this is their fall lineup, but this is Fox doing what Fox generally does all the time is, hey, if we're going to talk about sports and we're going to talk about football, then let's wedge in the UFL, right? And so essentially what they're saying is SmackDown's gone, Friday is sports. Here are the sports that we're going to be airing on Friday, whether it's kicking off in the fall. So whether it's college football or basketball, then once you get to the spring, now we're looking at the UFL. And it's interesting, too, because at the date that we're recording this, so the day before this comes out, we finally got the name of the joint streaming service between Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers Discovery, and that is going to be Venue. I know I've heard some confusion on the name, but it is Venue. At least I think it is. I hope it's not Venu.
I'm near 100% it's Venue. There's no way they're naming it Venu or any alien thing. It's probably Venue. They just took the E out.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
The name's out there for that too. So.
Exactly. Now, the only reason I bring that up is I think there's two things that we can actually talk about with this move other than the UFL playing on Friday. One is, hey, this gives an extra day of content for your streaming service, because now you got to think going forward, they're not just thinking about their over-the-air broadcast. They're heavily invested in this new Venue platform, right? It's still in the early stages, but there's been a lot of talk about this even prior to them having a name, right? So we can expect that we're going to see them talk about this heavily, probably during the NFL season and anytime they have the opportunity to. I don't think the pricing's out on it yet, but I've heard it's probably going to be around $30. We'll see. I don't know if that's a good price or a bad price. I'll leave that up to everybody else.
Sure.
The other point I'll bring up, and this is mini speculation zone, going back to a speculation zone that we talked about a couple weeks ago on, expansion. There's rumors that the league could expand to 12, maybe even more likely 10, but even more likely 12 teams next year. Now, this isn't necessarily that. If that's the case, then this isn't necessarily the league moving games to Friday. With more teams, you need to account for more games, and now this is just another day to play those games.
Right.
We have seen spring football test Friday nights in the past. We saw it last year with the XFL. Pretty sure we saw it with the Spring League. I'm almost certain we saw it with the USFL at some point in season 1.
Right.
So there's nothing new.
The one caveat with that is we haven't seen it on a broadcast network, and that's right. I think it's funny. I haven't seen as much pushback on this because if you look at the previous Friday night ratings for either one of these leagues, they're not great. Fridays, yeah. I'll admit, in the TV business, Fridays are kind of considered like the dead zone for a lot of television.
People are going out. People want to do things.
It's the start of the weekend. The thing they're trying to change, and this is what Fox is kind of leaning into, their whole strategy. You've noticed they've kind of moved away from a lot of like the drama series, and even they don't do sitcoms anymore. A lot of it's like efficient television. And one thing that brings in bucks still in TV is sports. So, Fox being known, I think, even more as a sports brand personally than a standard television brand. I think they're just like the way you read this is they're saying, screw it. Let's just lean into sports. We already do Saturdays for sports already. Let's make Fridays that too. No one else is doing that on a regular basis in the other big networks. And it's efficient. It uses their rights more, and you can kind of even add more sports rights if you want, or you can better expand them. Now, we'll have to see it. It's a challenge. Fridays, again, it's a little hard, but if you are expanding the league, logical sense would say that, hey, TV slots are already limited for the weekend with even 4 games. Wouldn't be hard to say it's a stretch that maybe you are adding those additional rumored 2 teams that has been talked about with this whole government agreement that they came together with when they started doing a bit of the merging back in November, December. So we'll see. I mean, that's what I find fascinating. I'll tell you one thing, and this is a bit of a speculative point here, but bear with me. With the venue announcement coming out today, I'm not going to manifest this because it would bring a lot of people that are very angry about it. But look, Fox, Disney, they both are on and do UFL games. Is there a chance they could possibly make one exclusive? Because I almost guarantee it. I definitely could see this happening where they're like, hey, we're going to make one or two of these venue exclusive items next year to kind of incentivize some subscriptions. Not saying it's a big audience, but they know what audience they're pulling. And they could definitely see people buying like whatever price this is, like $30 to $40 a month. I've heard from reading articles, $40 to $50 is like the kind of, and yes, it's going to hurt you a little. I'm just saying it's not out of the possibility. The two companies that own it are in this package. Another rumor you could throw in: what if they talk to Warner Discovery, who, by the way, is sounding like they're probably going to lose their NBA rights. Yep. So guess who's got free slots for TV airtime come next spring? Mm-hmm. If supposedly they lose it.
Who, again, was no stranger to spring football. We did see,
TNT.
What was it, TNT air at least a few AAF games.
And who, again, is a partner with Venue.
Yep.
Again, this is all speculative, but like it's funny, some of these dots kind of connect. Look, partnerships and how relationships work, I know some people talk, hey, maybe NBC, they get a little cleared up space. Who knows? I don't know. But, there's a lot going on here. The Friday night thing is the bigger concentration. I think that it's going to be a fascinating experiment for them next spring because it's not as well known as a TV night, but if they can make it a sports TV night, and if that's what they can convince people is, hey, you want more sports? Friday night sports. Here we go. Yep. We'll see how it plans out, but that's the next push.
I know I'll be tuning in. I'm curious to see if the crazies tune in. Like you said, Zach, in the past, ratings haven't been stellar on Friday nights. Again, though, I don't think we saw broadcast TV on Friday. And I think a lot of those UFL or USFL rather, or XFL after dark games were on Friday to where they were a little bit later too, which didn't
that too
help anything any as well.
One of them was USA Network, and that brings just a lot of people going, oh God,
Yeah, I mean, SmackDown, which wrestling's different. When we talk about crazies, wrestling has crazies. Yeah, they're able to pull in between 1 and 2 million pretty consistently on Friday night with SmackDown. So there is an audience that is there that will sit in front of their TV on a Friday. We'll just have to wait and see of how many of that audience is spring football fans. I do think that there's a good amount of crossover between professional wrestling and spring football for the obvious reasons. Vince McMahon, The Rock. I mean, it feels like there's always some connection between professional. We just had Booker T in Houston a couple weeks ago. I mean, sign him up.
It's consistent. If nothing else, it is very consistent how this keeps on cycling back to professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. Don't know how. Don't know why. Well, we kind of know why, but
yeah. Well, even weirdly enough, what was it? The Albany Firebirds. They had a thing with TNA wrestling.
TNA.
I mean, what is that? Clearly.
Wrestling and football, hand in hand. Who would have thought? I mean, shoot, I can even go into WWE having, and credit, this is more merchandise promotion, but them selling NFL belts, because that's also a thing, and those things, I don't know how people afford those belts, by the way, just random skew. It's amazing the prices those go for.
Well, they didn't used to be that expensive. So I own a couple wrestling belts, but like when I bought them, and okay, I'm dating myself because now that I'm thinking about it. So my NWA belt I bought in 2003, but it was like $150. I got a TNA belt in probably 2012, but same thing. It was maybe like $150, $200. Nowadays, they're like $500. And if you want the nice ones too, because a lot of these replica belts are like really cheap looking. I will say, if you guys are into wrestling belts, Fandu Belts makes the best wrestling belts, and they're still semi-affordable. If you like the big gold belt, which that's the one that I still haven't bought, mainly in part because I want to buy the Fandu one, and I'm torn on. This is a football podcast, Zach. What am I going on about? Anyway, Fandu belts. Sign you up. Go do your own research. What do we got?
Just wrapping it up with this. But yeah, it's still funny how the skew works. That's what we're trying to clarify here. is the thing. Anyhow, moving forward. So yeah, Friday Night Football sounds like it's a thing. Get ready for it next year, and what more might lie ahead with those implications. That's why biggest news this week is that deadline article, and it's going to be massive implications. Also reiterates that much like the draft talk that Jim Pop had last week on local Birmingham, Alabama air. It's sounding like that this season 2 is almost near confirmed. There's little to no worry. All the talk around it sound like season 2, you got nothing to worry about, and that they're full steam ahead on this thing. I think the ratings enough justified it last year. Now it's just about getting butts in seats again, which we can talk about later in the year, at the end of the year, once we see the last few games, is all we can tell you. Moving forward, something else that we have been kind of waiting to see what happens, and this has been over a month now, that no news on this, or no, I would say, updates on this. Now, if you remember back April 8th, the UFLPA dropped a statement on player bonuses not being issued in the UFL. So the original CBA that was shared to us leading into the season showed that the player bonus structure was supposed to be set up in the UFLPA. And going back to the bonuses myself, let me see if I can grab this while I'm here. There we go. So player bonuses this year, when they set up the UFLPA for this season, was supposed to be player of the week was $1,000 was the deal. And then they have the other bonuses of all UFL team, player of the year, and MVP. But the big one is player of the week. And apparently they weren't executing the player of the week bonuses for $1,000. So we finally got an update on this as of us recording. This is just before we came on. The union dropped an update, and I'll read off the update for you and quote, you will then discuss. Quote, "We have come to a resolution following a recent decision from a grievance filed by our union in regards to individual player bonuses. The UFL has agreed to increase I'm going to reread that. Quote, "We have come to a resolution following a recent decision from a grievance filed by our union in regards to the individual player bonuses, period. The UFL has agreed to increase the all UFL team compensation pool in lieu of playing out player of the week bonuses for the 2024 season. Our executive committee agreed to negotiate how weekly player bonuses will be selected during the off-season bargaining. It is our mission to ensure there is a fair and reasonable process when player of the week designations are made going forward. Postseason bonuses will remain in effect for 2024 all UFL, player of the year, and MVP honorees." So I'm going to go on a limb, and I know this is a little bit opinionated. I think the league fumbled the bag is what happened here. And clearly there is a ton of evidence on their side. They negotiated these bonuses, and you notice in the write-up that they're still mentioning all the bonuses that they talked about for the upcoming season that were negotiated back in the spring. And I don't know what happened where the league office and the PA had this disconnect on it. It is, yes, it's one player a week, but still, that's a big deal. Like USFL players in particular. Yeah, like USFL players enjoyed these. That's been a big staple even before the union. They were doing, player of the week and all that, and it helped get incentive. And, this year they were trying to bring it up as a bigger thing that's, saying, hey, look, we're rewarding you for incredible play. Now, credit, they did find a resolution. They are adding that money to the all UFL team, and that's fine. I think that's a decent resolution, but it's a bit of a fumble the bag when you have to go and have a union grievance immediately as the season starts, and now have it resolved where this should have been a non-issue. I feel bad the union had to step in and go, guys, what are you doing, man? Like we had a deal in place, but at least they resolved it. Now the thing is, they have to now be even more scrutinous, and this is why unions matter. They have to be more scrutinous on, okay, you're going to execute this when we do our CBA next year, right? Like that's the plan, because that stuff ain't going to go away. So they're going to expect next year that, hey, don't drop the ball again. We don't want to go through this one more time. Glad it's resolved, because I think a lot of people, some people especially, were like kind of forgetting about it. And a few of us in our own Discord, link in the description, were like, where the hell is this? Like, is it still a thing?
Well, I know Mark Thompson tweeted about it too, or X posted rather. But I tend to agree with you. I think this is a consequence of the merger. I think somewhere along the lines between the agreement and the people that were set to pay these things out, there was either a miscommunication because, I mean, it's easy to forget. It feels like ages ago that these were two different companies, but it was really only the USFL side that was paying out weekly player bonuses. The XFL wasn't doing that last year.
Yeah.
And so depending on who's running the show when it comes to payments, if it's the XFL side, if it's that group coming over or a mix of the two groups, but the person that was in charge of making those payments is no longer there, then I can see how this may have, slipped by the wayside, we'll say. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was done purposely. I think it was definitely an accident. And at least, like you said, they did come to a resolution. Would I have liked to see player of the weeks all year? Yeah, I think so. I think that was a nice little touch, especially when it comes to year one in the USFL. They were getting those custom Nikes. Mm-hmm. Year two, they got the Miller High Lifes, dude. The Miller High Life bottles, the custom bottles. Huge. I mean, those are awesome. So a little bit of a missed opportunity. I hope this gets patched up in the offseason and we see a return of that next year. It is nice to see them adding a little bit to the all UFL, but there's an argument that some of these guys that would have won player of the week aren't going to be on the all UFL team. And so they're going to miss out
individual performances. That's the thing. You highlight the best of the week. It doesn't mean everything's going to, not injuries affect people, circumstances change things. So that, $1,000, it's still big for you and I to have. These guys are making $50K a year regular right now. It would be nice to have those bonuses. And the thing is, I know, just to kind of backtrack correct, according to you, again, we're referencing the old UFL PA sheet, still was named USFL PA back in January. They didn't have these bonuses last year. They had the bonus, they had the accolade, but you weren't getting paid for it. So that was the big incentive, was like, hey, now we're getting paid for these, and I don't know what happened, but I mean, clearly someone dropped the ball. And that's what happened here. It took over a month to get things done. And again, the league is doing the right thing by at least moving some of the money and keeping the money in the pool of the bonus structure. Next year though, with this CBA, you got to execute. Like, you can't, I know you're going to have, this is what the union's here for. It's to help and keep you keep both parties in line. The league keeps the PA informed. It's supposed to keep it in check with how they're wanting to move and grow, and it keeps the players informed on how they're doing business. The PA to the union to the league is to then keep the league in check and make sure they're executing the CBA they agreed on. So this is a good example of the union doing its job. It's a shame that the league had to readjust like this. Mm-hmm. Again, I do think someone on that side did drop the ball. I don't know where, but next year it can't happen again. Just if you agree on that deal, execute the deal you were promised. And again, those details were back in January. They'd been negotiating up to the season, but they had those things ironed out. So not sure what got missed in translation, but yeah, just next year can't do the same thing. It's at least the money's still there. Just sucks those few of those player of the weeks are not going to be merged, and they didn't do any graphics or anything. So even then, no mention of any players of the week either. It's like fan player of the week, which is cool, but no league, even with this merged league, we couldn't designate a player of the week. It just surprises me, even with that bare minimum, just to show off the best of the best talents.
Right. Well, there's always next year. At least they did come to a resolution, and hopefully they've learned from the mistake here, right? And that's all you have to hope for. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, there was a merger going on, and so it is easy for things to fall through the cracks. But it was caught. It was resolved. At least we're not reading a release of, hey, these guys aren't answering our phone calls. What the heck is going on? Now that would be a disaster, right?
Yeah. No, I'm happy for that. And, at some point, I know Chris Rowland or someone from the league office on that end who is a player representative would have definitely said something. Right. So, they got it done. That's the main thing. It's another example, when I bring this back to last year, not to fully go back into this debate, but there were people last season. Well, why do you need a union? What do player unions do? I'm like, well, that's an example of what a player union does. Again, you can fans, I was surprised last season. Yes, you can try and trust organizations. You should. Hopefully, I imagine all organizations try and do good by their people. But here's the thing with sports: things sometimes get funky. Things sometimes get irky here or there. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes the best of intentions don't always get executed. And I know that that's not what everyone wants to hear, but that's the truth. This is why sports, every professional football league that has a standard like this, has a union. That's why the union was created in the USFL, is that those players wanted to up the standard. And they got their standard up for season 2. And that's why you're seeing it with this league. They're trying to raise their standards up. Now, the merger had to change a few things over, and they had to consolidate a few. But it helps keep the players protected and make sure that certain things and certain pieces of what they're promised are kept. And this is a good example of that. So if anyone ever asks me that again, I will always point to an example like this, that, hey, this is why you have this stuff. It's because both sides are holding each other accountable. It's not one side is saying something and you're just hoping to God it executes out. The union is a good thing. And I don't want people to say that that's bad, because for players, it's a good piece to have. And for even beyond, too. You get to save dollars. You get to, again, education and items like this get put into here. There's good things that players' unions do, guys. I don't want to, I was just surprised. I just wanted to go backtrack. Last year I was shocked the amount of why do we need this when it's so common everywhere else in football? Professional football, that is.
Right.
Just noted that. So,
100%.
Yeah, that's all I got. I could keep going on that, but yeah, things got clarified. It is the good spin on that. Money will be at least the all UFL teams should have a bit of a jump in their pay. Some silver lining. I'll take it. At least something got resolved. That was good.
For sure. 100%.
Anyway, moving forward. So, schedule changes are coming up. Not much. Just bear with me. Don't get lost in the sauce with that. I promise that was a shock factor, get you alerted. But as we are jumping on, the UFL PR team is give us a few nuggets on not only Week 10, but also some things for the championship games and when you can buy tickets, by the way, for the UFL championship. I had a few people now in our Discord have been going, hey, where are these tickets at? It's already Week 8. Can't we start looking into this? And even my folks back home, they're like, hey, can we buy these tickets yet, guys?
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't worry, Mom and Dad. Well, I'll let you know when they're coming out. And so this morning, we had one of our members of the Discord share an email to Battlehawks season ticket holders. They are going to get pre-sale tickets May 21st. I believe it's up to 8 tickets you can buy with the pre-sale. So they have a lot of access for right away. But 2 days later, the league's going to open up ticket sales to the game itself on May 23rd at 10 a.m. Eastern time. They're advertising it through the UFL.com. It's going to be on Ticketmaster most likely, but expect that week, the week of May 21st, your tickets are going to go on sale. So first thing that caught my eye. Second thing, which is really what the PR was made for, by the way, ESPN, it sounds like, is adjusting the Saturday, June 1st game between Michigan and Birmingham for the time at Protective Stadium. So Week 10 is now scheduled, or at least for Birmingham hosting Michigan. It's going to be scheduled for 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN Plus. So at least going to be on for the ESPN channel and family of channels is what you're going to see. But I think the main thing they're adjusting it for is, TV first off. But keep in mind, this matchup's going to now be back-to-back after that week. So we got a classic Stars Generals scenario here where we'll be talking about this game later, but we know it's going to be kind of a, how much do we really show them?
Yep.
I mean, do we play seriously? Is this like a playoff game where you sit starters? It's going to get wonky, but that you're going to watch this at a different time. The week after, that same game between these two opponents will be played, well, most likely in Birmingham. I know there's that slight chance you can get Michigan.
Well, Michigan,
but,
Ford Field's tied up that weekend.
Right.
So I'm curious to see if Michigan does somehow get the number 1 seed. Do we get Canton in the mix? Does all of a sudden it's like that Jeb Bush meme, Canton, 270 electoral votes, man. Sign them up.
I think the Discord wants to see what happens. Just at least anyone not a Birmingham fan in there wants to see. Hey, what if they do get this? What is the backup plan? It's not been mentioned. There's no I haven't heard any hints. Canton makes a lot of sense for the relationship. If you need it on the fly, they probably have availability if you wanted to. So, I mean, it'd be
kind of messed up it'd be messed up to have the game in Birmingham if Michigan's the number 1 seed. Zach, I will be mad for you.
Well, at least they're wearing the maroon jersey.
Yeah,
just let it make it like that. No, I hope not. Honestly, I'm just to even avoid it. At this point, just go play the game in Birmingham and just do it like that. It would be kind of funny. I will admit, it'd be kind of funny if they got it and you had to flip it around. But they're 2 games out. Just leave it alone. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Plus,
I don't think it's changing anyway.
If we're being realistic, Stallions. I mean, we talk later. I mean that road to 10-0 is feeling very realistic right now. Even though I am a Panthers fan and saying this, but. That also does not help my case to debate this. But yeah, they're going to play back-to-back games, most likely in Birmingham, I would say, on Saturday, June 8th, 3 p.m. Eastern on ABC. And some people actually kind of went, wait, they're on ABC? But this is the USFL Championship. Why are they on ABC? And I'm curious what your thought on that is, because, I guess I'm kind of shocked because Fox, that wasn't their baby. But, I mean, does it really matter now? It's a merger. Right. Does it matter?
Well, it's interesting, because you have the XFL conference on Fox. You have the ABC game is the USFL conference. I mean, at maybe their thought is they could branch out and reach a different audience. But you would think at this point, the 2 merged league audiences already know and they're well aware these games are playing. I don't know. There might be something to it. It could be a numbers thing. It could be all sorts of things, Zach. But yeah, I mean, it'll be curious to see what the numbers look for these games. But it is, what I will say, it is nice because it's on ABC and ESPN Plus and ESPN Deportes, so they're getting kind of like the gauntlet treatment there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. So now when it comes to the UFL championship tickets, so you mentioned the St. Louis Battlehawks season ticket holders getting an opportunity to buy them on the 21st. Well, it looks like according to this release, we have the 23rd for public. You may have mentioned that earlier. So if you did, I was probably drifting off.
You're just
but 10 a.m. Eastern, folks. 10 a.m. Eastern.
You're just checking that you read that right.
Yeah.
Look, we've all been waiting for these tickets for a good chunk now. Some of us thought this would be out by the midpoint of the year, but it's good that at least they're going to get out. Don't worry. Next week, you're going to be able to get these tickets, and you're going to be real happy that you got them. We're going to be happy that we got the final piece of our bookings finished up. Mm-hmm. It's coming together. The final thing you need to know, guys, is that these 2 pieces. So the XFL Championship game is on Fox. That's what the other half of this is. It's going to be on Fox, 7 o'clock Eastern time, Sunday, June 9th. And then it all comes together, 5 o'clock Eastern time. We knew it was going to be on Fox already for the UFL Championship game between whoever wins the 2 other games the week prior. A lot of people already projecting it's going to be a rematch of what happened, last week. And so, buckle up, people. It's coming into your front view facing mirror really quick.
Mm-hmm. It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Well, just think about this. It feels like the season just kicked off and we're at week 8 right now.
Yeah.
And so these playoffs, I mean, after this week, we're a month away. We're a month away from the UFL playoffs, from the UFL championship, really. I mean, it is. It will be here before you know it. And then we're going to be talking about off-season stuff, off-season, off-topic. We're going to be doing all sorts of things, Zach.
Draft talk will be going on at some point. Whatever the extra details come out, that's going to be happening this summer. Mm-hmm. Much more on the way. Much more work to do.
Oh, yeah. Plenty to go. Plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm looking forward to it, which leaves us to this week, Zach. So last week, I mean, you're probably feeling pretty good. You're feeling on a high. You didn't have to wait until week 10 to find out that you're making the postseason. You already know who you're going to be taking on. It is the Birmingham Stallions, so that isn't the greatest news. We've learned that ref's law is uncanny. 2 weeks ago, we saw what it did to Arlington. Last week, we saw what it did to my own Roughnecks. Ref's law knows no bounds. It doesn't matter if you're up. It will find a way to win. And we'll get into it. But this week, I'm not sure if that's any different. But just like last week, this week we have some playoff clinching scenarios as well.
We do.
And we could see all the playoff picture by Sunday night. That's kind of crazy to think about.
This isn't too crazy to see either, given the fact, as we'll talk later, one of the two teams that are crucial to this play each other. So as you're hinting at, here's the scenario. So this is the XFL side. USFL last week was clinched. Michigan got their win. Houston and Memphis both lost. I get to go and be prepared for a game against what might be a potentially 9-1, 10-0 team that depends on how people play in week 10. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, the XFL side. So St. Louis, if you're going to get into the playoffs, simple thing. You got to beat DC. San Antonio, you're going to be rooting for St. Louis at least this week because, well, if they get in and you win, well, you're in. So simple deal. St. Louis wins, they're in. San Antonio wins, and, well, the St. Louis result holds. Well, championships are set before we get to week 10. And I'll be honest, and I want your opinion on this, Stefan, because I think last few years we've had talks on this with both leagues. Mm-hmm. Is it bad that the playoff matchups are set before week 10? In terms of viewership and excitement standpoint. Now, excitement standpoint I can get, but like for viewership and like the league's health overall, is it bad that these might be set before we get to the end of the season?
I don't think it's bad for the league health, but it definitely takes a little bit of excitement out of it. You know, when we look last year to the XFL and the USFL, things came down to week 10, right? So there was a little bit of excitement there. Do I think it's going to kill the league? No, I don't think so at all because it's hard. Feels like forever ago, but week year, the USFL was very similar to this. We had the playoffs locked down, I think around this point. It was either week 7 or week 8. Things were locked down, basically, because you had the Stallions and the Generals, which were both on a roll. They were both on a tear.
Oh, yeah.
I think at that point, they only had one loss each.
Yeah, in the North, we knew the Stars in 2022 easily because the Maulers and the Panthers were actually there's arguably more hype for that game week 10 with the Toilet Bowl. I want to keep that in perspective that we are seeing 3-1-7 teams. We're going to talk about the draft as we get it closer, and I hope there's something to discuss with that. But yeah, like 2022, we saw those two locked up, and then on the flip side, Birmingham had it locked up, and then honestly, New Orleans even had it locked up too. They were 6-4 going into the end of the year, so. It's pretty, it's happened. I guess it's funny because this conversation did cycle back up this week when the UFL dropped their graphic for the USFL conference, and I did see surprisingly a good chunk of people say, this is terrible. The playoffs are already set. I'm like, well, what can you do? Like,
it's a short season.
You can change teams out and change next year, but like, hey, it's whatever. Done deal now,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to still tune into the games. I think a good chunk of the fans are going to tune into the games. There might be some fans of teams that are 1-6 that might not tune into the games, but that's that's going to happen with any sport. You think many people are tuning into the Oakland Athletics? Probably not. Nobody's going to the games. I can tell you that much. For as much as people want to talk about the UFL attendance, that's just kind of case in point. This is something that happens in all sports leagues. There's NFL games that are near empty. There's MLB games that are near empty. There's MLS games that are. This happens across the board, right? And so, sure, do you want to pack those stadiums? Hell yeah, you do.
Of course you do.
But let's not act like this is exclusive to spring football. Do I think it's great? No. Do I think it's going to kill the league? No, because it didn't kill the USFL. And then year 2, we saw exactly what we wanted. Everything come down to week 10 for the most part, except for, the Stallions. But the Stallions are the Stallions.
I know.
Man.
Hindsight's 2020. Like, you can't project this is going to happen, If anything, I think what would have made this louder, I'm actually glad this is being avoided, by the way, is the fact that it is tracking that the top 4 teams, like overall, are going to land. Because remember that conversation before the season where you had even Anthony Beck going on local radio going, well, I think we might do the CFL style where like you get the conference champs, but then we'll pick the best of the best for the 2 seeds. And, people were watching that because they switched back into the traditional and were like, all right, well, if this happens, we'll argue it. And sure enough, records are holding true. And here's the thing, happens every year too in the NFL. You just got, look, the beauty of this is you are in your conference. You got to deal with what you got to deal. I know that there's the rule of cool, but clearly it worked out in its favor this year. These are, the records right now show the top 4 teams, of course, right now, one way or another. But I digress. I'm past that now. I thought that was fascinating. Just talk about it because I'm like, what are you supposed to do? These teams are supposed to win.
Hey,
They're
don't
trying
win.
to clinch.
Hey, Skip Holtz, knock it out.
Can you follow the script, please? This is not what we talked about at the beginning of the season, guys. I thought one of you was supposed to lose. Birmingham, what the hell, man? You out here freaking going 7-0. I thought you were supposed to be like middle of the pack. What's going on, Skip?
For real though, no, I get it. I get why people are frustrated by it. I won't say angry, but yeah, I mean, what are they supposed to do? I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the game is to win,
Guys, hey, where the hell is this note on the? Where's the 12-0 note? Where's the rough 'em up? I thought we said 12-0 this year.
Yeah, that's the only one that didn't get the damn memo. I don't know what's going on here.
What happened to that version of the script?
See, the league, that's the only team the league talked to, and that's the only team that listened.
They understood the assignment.
Bunch of nonsense.
Curtis Johnson, follow along with your role.
Anyway.
We got games to talk about here. Week 8 is on the horizon. And again, USFL side is locked up for the playoffs. But I think, personally, focus on that conference in terms of the draft because you have 2 1-6 teams now, along with an XFL team that is 1-6. But let's be honest, we do now know that and have been knowing for a while they are the better of the 3.
Yep.
But that's going to be the new race is who's going to get the first draft position if we're talking traditional draft positioning. We'll do a little bit more of a breakdown, see if we can get some tiebreakers later on as this goes. But it is a thing no one else is really talking enough about, and I think we got to start talking about it. So
I want the Pooper Bowl. I want it.
Look, Memphis, you said it. Memphis and Michigan, or Memphis and Houston, they play week 10. If these 2 teams keep on just kind of staying the course, I mean, I'm watching like you on seeing if we pull the Daryl Johnston rule of cool here.
I mean, it really depends. If Arlington can get a win between now and week 10, I think we get the rule reenacted. But I'll give my thoughts on that in the last game.
Well, I'm also going to give my thoughts on that too. Funny you mentioned, but let's stick this. Memphis and Michigan. So Showboat's going over to Ford Field. By the way, that is the season finale over at Ford Field. Been checking the tickets like I usually do just for a little fun. Tickets look like they're selling all right. Last game had better tickets than the previous, so they're kind of sharing back up, and I think it's because it's the season finale. Good ticket prices too. Still can go out and get them. Showboats, I'll be honest, it's been kind of a floundering ship here a little bit right now. Michigan, for the most part, I think a lot of people are watching the injury report to see, do we stick with a Bryce Wilkins and then Brian Lewerke setup like they did last week? Will Danny Etling be ready? Do they rest Danny Etling to kind of keep him more ready so that his non-throwing hand can heal up? And to be frank, Lewerke and Wilkins both did reasonable work against DC last week. No offense to the Showboats, but their Showboats defensive squad with Carnell Lake is not really that much better. It's the worst one in the league right now. 47 gave up to the Arlington Renegades, and that run defense has not been up to snuff. Meanwhile, Michigan, my God, they figured out the formula with getting Matt Colburn going. Both of their running backs now can find ways to be active in this RPO offense. Honestly, it seems a little on paper easy to pick Michigan. I probably am going to lean Michigan. But your thoughts, because, I mean, what does Memphis have to offer on the table here? It's
Nothing.
hard to say. It's been very dysfunctional, surprisingly so, the whole year. It's been a repeated, it's a repeated hit the books type of thing, whatever, consistently downplaying every week.
So I made a mistake of calling them the oh no boats on Monday, and what I should have called them was the no show boats, because my God, other than week one, because week one we were there at the game. They looked impressive. Little did we know that the Roughnecks were just that bad. But they were had like a 9-minute possession to start out the game or something like that. I'm like, oh man, if they're going to do this all season, they're going to be hard to beat, because if you're holding on to the ball. And then ever since then, they have not been able to do a damn thing.
No.
And they lost to arguably what everybody thought was going to be the worst team. Well, not thought was going to be, but halfway through the season, they were the only one without a win. Well, they got their win. They got it against the Showboats. And I don't care if the Panthers clinched a playoff. I don't care if they clinched the championship game and they rested everybody but the water boy. I think the Panthers are going to win this. And I think we'll get Bryce Perkins out there. I think they'll start developing packages around him. Let Ettling rest, because then at minimum, you're going into the playoffs with Ettling and Perkins with a good amount of experience under his belt, because, hey, 3 games is nothing to slouch at. We've talked about it in the past with any of these spring leagues. It generally seems to take about 3 weeks for these guys to find their rhythm and gel and do the things that they need to do to win convincingly.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think the Panthers are going to roll with Bryce Perkins for the rest of the season. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. And then that gives them the opportunity to not play whoever they're going to play in the playoffs against the Stallions in Week 10. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe I'm shocked. Maybe Michigan lays down and says, you know what? We're in. Let's just kind of make sure nobody gets hurt and the Showboats win. I don't think so. I think the Showboats are toast. I think their best shot of winning another game this season is Week 10. But hey, we still got a couple weeks left, and maybe this is the trap game we've all been waiting for, but I don't think it is.
We thought trap week was going to be next week, and it almost was for San Antonio, but let's be honest, trap week was kind of a letdown, because everyone who was favored, everybody who was favored, I believe Arlington was favorited in their game too at one point, did pull out a win. Look, I don't know what to say with Memphis. Run game has been abysmal all season. They do Titus Swain has kind of found lanes, but it's not been much. Beyond that, even if you put in Troy Williams, so this is one thing that has bugged me with Troy. Case holds onto the ball a little longer than he needs to, and unfortunately that has become a trend this year. Because I've had someone at my own job, no joke, Stefan, he came up to me and said, Case Cook is terrible. I said, he used to not be, though. That's the thing. He used to not be this way. I watched 2 seasons of this man do amazing things, and unfortunately it came to rear, the uglier portions of his game came to rear his head this year with holding onto the ball too long and not processing the field as well with John DeFilippo's offense, and it's just not been showing up. Troy Williams, unfortunately, has more of the turnover bug. And that could be just because he's more of an erratic player. He likes bailing out of the pocket more. He takes a few more chances downfield, but it does lead to turnovers more consistently. Not to mention, offensively, they cannot convert on the regular to get and save themselves on a drive. A lot to answer for. Michigan's going to be, and we talk about Arlington's defense being not so stout. Michigan, even with injuries, we saw last week. Hello? Why did you leave?
Oh, I'm here. I never left. What are you talking about?
You definitely left.
What are you talking about? No, I don't know what happened. It just said, oh, something's problem. All right, we'll just clip that out. Carry on.
Next game up on the docket. Well, hey, maybe this is a trap game, but let's be frank. The Trends did not show up in their previous matchup, as the Roughnecks now head to Birmingham to take on the Stallions. And I'll be honest with you, better than the Showboats, same level. Offensively, Houston is kind of like that inverse Memphis, where they haven't even cracked 100 points on the season, by the way. They're the only team that hasn't cracked the century mark this year for points scored. They're going to probably do it this week against Birmingham, but what is the secret sauce to possibly getting an upset here?
Luck and trend. I mean, that's our best hope here. I'll tell you one thing that's against us right now is ref's law, because I'll say this, if the Showboats pull out a win, then I'm feeling pretty good that the Roughnecks can pull out a win. That's the only thing that could give me hope that the Roughnecks are going to win this game, is if the Showboats beat the Panthers. I'll be honest. Yeah, that's how sold I am on ref's law right now, because I'll tell you, beyond that, the only thing that's going in their favor is that the only team to beat them in year one was the Roughnecks in Birmingham.
Yep.
One of two teams to beat them in year two was the Roughnecks. I'm pretty certain in Birmingham. I'll have to double check that, but I'm fairly certain it was our road
year
game.
Year two, it was in Birmingham.
And so here we are again, year three in Birmingham on the road. Maybe. That's it. Those are the only two things that could convince me that the Roughnecks have any shot of winning. I don't know. I don't think it could happen, especially after what we saw Birmingham do against St. Louis. St. Louis and Birmingham was such a highly contested matchup, and Birmingham made a good handful of mistakes and still won the game against a highly competitive team, against a team that killed us. So everything tells me that there's no shot in hell that the Roughnecks are going to win this game. Unless, like I said, the only two things are if somehow the Showboats beat the Panthers, then there's nothing that could convince me otherwise that the Roughnecks aren't winning. Because ref's law, I'm sold on it at this point. Or the trend factor. That's
this
about
one,
it. Or the Stallions feel bad. I don't know. I did tell Skip Holtz to take it easy on the Stallions last year, or on the Roughnecks, on the Gamblers at the time last year. And he said, why would I do that? I'm like, well, it's my team. He's like, what, did your brother play there or something? No, he said, I'm not taking it easy on him. You got to love Skip, man. He's the best.
The fact you asked him is my favorite. Please leave my team alone. I beg you, sir. Don't destroy my favorite squad. It's like begging to the gods, football gods above. Although this one resides in central Alabama. But this week, if there's ref's law very much is it's sitting pretty. The favorites are very much lining up in their favor. Here's my thing. I know I could talk Birmingham, and you guys all listening know what Birmingham has. Adrian Martinez clearly has shown out that he's on pace to possibly lead in stats and passing with less games this year. He's been on fire. Their run game, spectacular. Receivers, that's what impressed me last week, by the way, that I didn't get to say on ATU. I am now fully sold on their receiving core. I was wondering, and I don't have any questions anymore. I don't know, and credit, Deion Kane, I knew about Marlon Williams. It's just I didn't see as much. I was wondering beyond that, and I have no doubts anymore. I have little doubts if I had any, and that was like the last bit. So, and then defensively, Birmingham, I mean, they've been playing number 2 defense now, and part of it's just because they score so much and they just kind of get soft at the end of their games, and so the score doesn't always match up and yardage kind of catches up. For Houston, this is the bigger deal with this. How do you win? Stay ahead of schedule with Reed Sinnett, get some sort of running game going, which I don't know what their strategy is. I mean, TJ Pledger kind of is their number 1 guy anymore, which shocks me. By the way, shocks a lot of people, by the way, but he is kind of their de facto guy at this point in the season. Stay ahead of schedule with those two elements, and then hopefully get some stops. I mean, it's hard with Birmingham, though. The weapons they have in the passing game, Adrian Martinez is reading the field better every week. You can see it. And that's saying something given what he's done this year. And plus, he runs so damn fast. It's hard to bring him down. Last week, Joel Klatt said that, he ran for 60 yards and it seems like nothing, but then you realize, oh yeah, 60 yards is still pretty good for a QB. And the fact that 3 of those were crucial first down runs, like, how do you stop that? It's hard to say. Houston has a huge task to not get swept. At this point, it's for pride and to get some, get a win under your belt. And honestly, I hate bringing it up, but like, there's a lot of people that are Houston fans calling for Curtis Johnson's job. And I know the league's been a little, depending on them moving on, it seems like in years past with USFL and maybe others that it's more moving on. But like, there are a lot of people in Texas that kind of want CJ fired right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to comment on my man,
and that's
CJ
Johnson.
Johnson.
That's just the public opinion I've seen. I am not saying he should be or not. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of fans that are calling for a certain coach.
I mean, they're not happy. I'll tell you that much. There's not a lot to be happy about. I mean, case in point, last week, you're up, and then what are we back 2 years ago to where we're losing games at the last second again? What happened?
I know.
We were so close to the playoffs last year, only to go right back to where we were the year prior.
Yeah, 5-5 squad improved on things year over year, and now, I mean, more competition, but definitely a backslide.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I mean, in a bad way. We're on pace to be worse than we were in the first season, which was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So.
Say 3-7's looking pretty nice right now.
Sure is,
wild
buddy.
to think about.
But yeah, I don't think they're pulling it off. The only thing that can convince me otherwise is if the Showboats win at this point. That's it. Ref's Law is won me. I mean, it's taken
the
me over. It's
superstition's
taken over
real,
the league.
Man.
It's scary.
It's real.
It's scary.
It's real. Yeah, I got Birmingham easy. I mean, last game they blew the doors off of them. Or, sorry, as I reference a former Houston fan or a current Houston fan from our one appearance week 1, they beat the barn doors off of them. And I'm not expecting much different result. Maybe a bit better, but this is Birmingham's world, and we're all living in it for the most part in the USFL conference. And Michigan showed up to play, so I'm feeling like the Ref's Law is going to stay pretty close. If I didn't reiterate, I think the Panthers will win too in week 1 or in the first match on Saturday. So bear with me there. Moving on, Sunday slate, and this is where things get fascinating, where we might lock down the XFL conference. Is starting up here at the 12 o'clock slot, if you will. DC playing St. Louis. In St. Louis this time. And as we saw just a few weeks ago, Battlehawks kind of came into the Defenders' home, which had been kind of like this no one can win, it's our turf, we're undefeated kind of grounds. And, you know, they laid waste to it. 45-17 affair, kind of ran away with it in the third and late, and especially fourth quarter. And coming into this too, DC, tons of questions on the quarterback scenario, by the way. You know, Jader Francois on IR, Jordan Ta'amu concussion protocol. Will he start or not? I think that's going to really decide and factor into how much we might see the Defenders be competitive in this one. Plus, not to mention, the Defenders also lost Kelvin Harmon. Top receiver's gone for the year too.
Which that's a killer, because that was really their guy this season. But yeah, I mean, similar to what I was saying earlier, I just feel like the St. Louis Battlehawks are going to come into this game and stomp DC. Now, there's a couple things. There's a couple reasons. One, it's like their natural rivalry from the XFL past. Two, we saw it in the post-game press conference. Coach Becht was not happy about that loss last week.
No.
And I would not doubt if we come out and see the Battlehawks take out their frustrations on the Defenders at home in St. Louis this weekend. I would be scared to be any of the players on the Defenders going against the Battlehawks this weekend. They have playoffs. They have their sights set on the playoffs. It's so close. It's their natural rivalry. They just stomped them a couple weeks ago, and they're coming off a stinging loss against the Stallions. I don't know what the DC Defenders have to do, but I don't know if there was a thing that they could do that they would be able to do it between now and Sunday to beat the Battlehawks. I don't see it happening.
It's hard to say. The only thing I'm watching that, and credit, I don't think this is going to be a factor because I do believe the said person will play, but AJ McCarron was designated as of our recording as a did not practice. He was limited in practice earlier this week. Remember, he got rolled up on his ankle on that personal foul roughing the passer call in the second half of that game against the Stallions, and kind of affected his mobility later in the game. I do think he's going to play personally. I think they're just letting him rest one of these days. I don't see him sitting for a game that's so crucial like this. And the fact that he was limited in practice already this week, I think they're just resting him up to give him some time is the deal. So something to keep an eye on because, you know, again, was a core injury and was a storyline going into the week. But I do think I think the Battlehawks do walk away with this personally, even without their run game is also fantastic. And DC, Greg Williams' defense has been so all over the place this year. And now the new trend is that everyone can just run on the defenders' front seven. Like 2 weeks in a row, back-to-back 120-plus yard performances by running backs. Even if AJ can't go, do you really think that team is going to be able to stop Slayer? I don't think so. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I got Battlehawks in this. It doesn't matter who the setup is. I think they're going to take the win and set up what might be a clinching. At least they will clinch the playoffs. Now,
if they win.
But now this final one. Now this is one you and I hinted at. Arlington going to San Antonio. Now, sure, records on paper. Now this is easy. San Antonio, right? Well, hey now, let's pause for a second. QB issues abound right now with the Brahmas. And I'll tell you right now, if it was any, and everyone knows this, if it was any better of a team that was better coached, could better be executing on the basics of the game, there's no way this team is 5-2 right now. And it's not, and I'm telling you right now, Arlington, talk about a team you don't want to play right now.
Yeah.
When you're trying to lock things up, and to be fair, it's not like it's going to be this end of world scenario if they lose. I think they're still going to be a playoff team, but this is definitely trap game material. Like last week we did
100%.
say all of them were, but like the way Quentin Dormy's played, the QB now debate on him or Kevin Hogan, some of the disorganization the Brahmas have had in recent weeks for a 5-2 squad. This is trap game material. And I think Luis Perez is playing angry right now. And that's not good.
No, this feels like the spoiler game of the week, if you ask me. This feels like, well, one, we saw what the Renegades can do last week. Again, it was against the Showboats, but they walloped the Showboats. They took them to town. They beat them up. They broke them down. They did everything they could to them. And at the same time, what do we see the Brahmas do? We saw the Brahmas win, but barely against the Roughnecks. So when we look at that, we have
talk
both
about
of these
Houston
teams
leaving a win on the field. That's the thing. Left the win out there.
But when we look at both of these guys played 1-6 teams last week, but both of them had dramatically different outcomes. I don't know. I feel like the Renegades spoil it. They block, at least for the week, the Brahmas out of the postseason. That's not to say that they're not going to get there, but I think they'll have to play another day to see that opening to get right back in. We'll see. I mean, we could get shocked. The Brahmas have been that team to kind of get that win at the last second. I mean, we saw it last week. We saw it a couple times this season. So it is very possible. But like you said, Zach, quarterback, I mean, they've been struggling there ever since injuries throughout the season. Kevin Hogan seemed to play pretty well last week for him, but it looks like, at least as of now, they're not going to be starting with him. But we'll see. There's still a lot of time between now and Sunday. But yeah, I wouldn't count out the Renegades just yet. And if they weren't eliminated, I'd say they're going to mess around and end up in the playoffs with another 4-6 record.
Right? Well, look, here's my thing is I know the last matchup, these two, San Antonio walked away with it, and Arlington main thing was coaching issues. I still worry about their coaching, by the way. I'm not going to just sidestep that. I don't trust, as much as I know the legendary name that this guy is, I'm not trusting Bob Stoops or his staff at any juncture. They still have a lot to answer for how this season's gone on with some decision making and some choices. But you know what they did last week? They got out of the way. They let Luis Perez cook the entire game. They didn't try and do funky plays as often. They said, you know what? Luis is the guy. Why disrupt the flow of the offense? And that's what all of us, and even Arlington fans, have been saying. Just leave him be. He's been playing at a top tier level. He's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this league right now on a 1-6 roster, Stefan. How the hell have they screwed this up to where you have Luis's arguably best season of his professional career and they're freaking slouching? I mean, I'm looking at this right now. He leads the league in passing yards. Honestly, if this was a better team, we'd be talking about Perez as an MVP candidate, but because he's on a 1-6 squad, we can't talk about it like that. He's nowhere on this because he's He's not the problem, but he's on a roster that makes him look like he's not doing enough. He's doing a ton. The coaching staff keeps putting him out of play situations and making these weird Lindsey Scott trick plays that I don't like and putting in scenarios and other packages that make no sense for play calls. They got out of the way last week against Memphis. And if they can keep learning from that, which, hey, remember last year, a little birdie has told us, I won't say who, told us that they adjusted their playbook and they got out of the way and let Luis do his thing. Funny how that works. They're 1-6 right now. That is not the right time to be playing them if you're San Antonio. Quentin Dormady, I know he's hot and cold, but he has been ice cold as of late. Yep. And if the coaches get out of the way in Arlington, I'm actually going to lean the Renegades this week. I'm not going to lie. I think confidence does wonders. A team with nothing to lose does wonders. And I'm going to be honest, the Brahmas have been sitting ducks the last 2 weeks. They got lucky last week. Really shouldn't have walked out of there with one. But we'll see. I've got the Renegades. I don't trust the Brahmas right now, I'll be honest with you.
I'm with you. And like I said, it really comes back down to what we saw last week. Both these teams played teams that were 1-6, and look at the different outcomes that we had. We had one barely scratch out a win, and we had one just stomp one in another team, right? And so, again, any given Sunday, anything can happen, any game, anything can go down. But to me, I'm feeling like the Renegades are pulling this out. I'm feeling like ref's law is going to continue. And I think the St. Louis Battlehawks are going to come in with some fury. So basically, it looks like all the home teams are going to win this week, if you ask me. Oh, except for the last game, away team.
Well, yeah,
so
last
there we
game.
go. A little bit of mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah,
there you
Alamo
go. But they're in Texas. So there you go.
Get some Renegades fans coming up there. I would hope so. And we'll see. Look, I mean, the Brahmas on paper, like you said, on paper, defense still is a big candidate, and the Renegades do have to avoid issues of the past. But again, it felt like they kind of turned a corner where the play calling and just some of the coaching issues of the year, they finally just said, you know what, screw it. Let's stop being fancy. Let's stop just doing stuff to do stuff and just let the strengths of our team play out. It's kind of what happened. And I'll be frank, I'm not really, if we're talking passing defense in particular, that's the one thing that I'm kind of be watching for. You know, San Antonio does have the second best pass D in the league. I still think there's opportunities to be had, though, is the thing. You know, I do think that the Renegades do have some opportunities. And again, I just don't trust that offense on the other side right now. Yeah. AJ Smith is going to work on this, of course, but I don't think he's happy that he's had to go. You know, unfortunately, Chase Garber's got knocked out from injury, and it's not worked out as much.
Nope.
They've gotten wins, but not with the way that they should be right now, and it's been rocky, to say the least.
Well, we'll see. Can they lock down? It might come down to them. Can they secure their playoff spot? Because if St. Louis does their part, it's all up to San Antonio. They can't blame anybody but themselves if they can't get it done this week. And that's not to say that the door is closed. They still got a few more weeks to seal the deal. But and it still feels like they will be the ones to get in, especially if St. Louis beats DC this week. It opens that gap a little bit. But I mean, anything can happen. Like we saw with Arlington last year, they got in 4-6. Not
anything can happen
this year. There will be a better record this year. Everybody will be over 500, but who will it be? Who will it be? So maybe we will have some excitement coming down the stretch, Zach. Everybody's assumed that it's going to be closing out this week, but we could be talking about it next week. We could be talking about it the week after too.
It's gonna be a fun week as always. Might have some stuff clinched. We'll find out. Hey, Brahmas, we're challenging you. Time to see if you can lock things in and find the right way to go. Maybe hot Quentin Dormady shows up. I have no idea. I don't think so, but I have no idea. We'll see what happens. Defense wins championships. Who knows?
Yep.
Any final thoughts here, Ref, before we close out another great show?
I'm just looking forward to another good week of UFL. I'm looking forward to next week at the last home game for the Roughnecks of the season. It might not have been the season we were looking forward to, but I'm still looking forward to going to the game at Rice Stadium. They have a little bit of a celebration down on the field for season ticket holders, so I'll be there. We'll probably have some ref cam action over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, get some ref cam on there, man.
Yeah, so, make sure you're tuned in for all that stuff. And Then we get to head into the playoffs and the championship, and I am excited about that, man. I am looking forward to it like no other.
Ooh, baby. End of the season coming on the way, and we're going to lead you right on in to the end of the year. But time to get through week 8. Guys, hope you enjoy the games. Follow us along again on our socials. Hey, be sure to subscribe, by the way. That's the thing I know I missed at the beginning of the show. Hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, hey, hit that big red button down below. Click the bell. Builds morale, not only for you, but for us too and our PFN crew. We're going to have much more coming down the pipeline. pfnewsroom.com for all the latest UFL previews, recaps, news, and stories. We got tons of it going on, and we're going strong. We appreciate all the pop-off for that Friday report, too. That thing was big for us. Damn. Putting it out there. But check us out, pfnewsroom.com, at UFL Podcast on your favorite social, at Around the UFL on your favorite social, Around the UFL on Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, live. I will be back for that show this week. I guarantee it. So we'll continue to have a loaded staff and much more storylines to discuss as the season goes on and comes closer to its conclusion, sadly, as well, as we're going near the playoffs. Well, playoffs are on the horizon. It's on about that time. He's the ref. I'm Zach Kyleman. This has been episode 86 of the UFL Podcast. Catch you next week. Same time, same place. See you later. Stay tuned.